the tyrant emperor was selecting consorts, and every unmarried woman of age had to enter the palace. I begged my childhood sweetheart, the young Marquis Lin JunYi, to propose to me quickly. But he wrote my cousin's name on the marriage proposal instead. I cried and asked him why. He looked at my sister with pity in his eyes. Manine is lively and can't stand the palace rules. Besides, she has lost both parents and can only rely on me now. He said he had arranged everything and would marry me once I was not selected. Seeing that I was unmoved, he gradually lost patience. We've known each other for many years. Even if you become a concubine, you'll be a noble one, and I won't let the world look down on you. Manine only has the title of the principal wife, but you are the one I value the most. What more do you want? Later, I was favored by the emperor. On the day I entered the palace, the phoenix carriage swayed, and I encountered Lin JunYi's wedding procession head-on. He saw me in dazzling palace attire, his eyes reddened, and he called me Yao Yao like a madman. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Mother, your daughter has caught the emperor's eye and will enter the palace in 3 days. I held back the sourness at the tip of my nose and threw myself into my mother's arms, her chest heaving violently with shock. How could this happen? JunYi promised repeatedly that you were just going through the motions. How could you be chosen? I sneered inwardly, unwilling to expose the truth. If Lin JunYi were truly confident, why didn't he let Qin Manning take the risk but coaxed me instead? Mother clutched her chest and wailed. Poor daughter, the emperor is tyrannical. Entering the palace is like seeking your own death. Wait, I'll ask JunYi to think of a way. I sighed lightly and stopped her. Mother, the emperor's orders cannot be disobeyed. Everything is my fate. Lin JunYi said he found out that the emperor hated the color blue and told me to wear a lake blue dress for the selection. But before the selection, I noticed from the subtle glances of the palace staff that the emperor's favorite color was precisely the blue I wore. Sure enough, the emperor was very pleased with me, saying I was charming and unparalleled in beauty, and immediately granted me the position of noble lady. On the way out of the palace, I had already accepted the reality before me. Mother, however, was inconsolable, stomping her feet in frustration. I thought JunYi was deeply in love with you and someone you could entrust your life to, but I didn't expect him to. My eyes misted over. For the past 10 years, I had always thought so. When I first met Lin JunYi, I was not yet 5 years old. The arrogant young ladies bullied me for my humble background. And he stood up for me, protecting me behind him. She's mine, and I want to see who dares to bully her. After driving away the crowd, he gently poked the dimple on my cheek, curious and amused. There's actually a little girl like a glutinous rice dumpling in the world, so pretty. He made my heart bloom with joy, and he quietly took root in my heart from then on. His favoritism towards me was known to everyone in the capital. He usually practiced martial arts but was always gentle and careful with me, never speaking harshly. Anything that caught my eye among the popular items for girls in the capital would appear on my dressing table the next day. On the occasion of his birthday banquet, when my first period came unexpectedly, leaving me embarrassed, he took off his outer robe in public to cover for me and comforted me awkwardly in private. My dear Yao Yao is a grown-up now and can get married. I buried myself in his arms, muffledly saying, I don't want to get married. I want to be with you forever. He responded in a deep voice, all right, holding me tighter. At that time, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. I prayed countless times to the gods and Buddhas, asking for nothing in this life but Lin JunYi. But things didn't go as I wished. Ever since Qin Manning was brought back to the capital from the countryside, everything slowly changed. Qin Manning was my cousin, orphaned at 10. Due to lack of discipline in her early years, she offended a noble and was sent to the countryside to learn manners. Half a year ago, my father couldn't bear it and secretly brought her back. I pitied her for being alone and helpless, so I took extra care of her, and we were inseparable. Lin JunYi initially had some complaints, often saying to me, It's hard enough to invite you out, and you bring a tale, ruining the mood. But as Qin Manning deliberately got closer, Lin JunYi's gaze at her gradually held an indescribable admiration. Later, the things he sent to the Qin residents were prepared in pairs, no longer unique to me. I noticed the subtlety and cautiously tested them in their presence. The young master of the Li family in the west of the city is of noble character and wants to marry you. Mother asked me to ask if you're willing, Manine. Qin Manine was stunned, then knelt and kowtowed to me, pleading. Sister, are you angry that I'm clinging to the young marquis? Please don't be mad and don't drive me away. I just want to stay by you and the young marquis, even as a foot-warming maid. Before I could react, Lin JunYi pulled her up and, upon grabbing her arm, heard her cry out in pain and quickly withdrew her hand. Lin JunYi swiftly rolled up her sleeve, revealing a large bruise, and his face darkened immediately. Qin Muyao, Manine is your sister. How can you treat her so harshly? How are you any different from those scheming women in the back courtyard? My heart sank. He thought I was tormenting Qin Manine behind his back. After knowing each other for so many years, when did I become a venomous woman in his eyes? Qin Manine leaned weakly against him, hurriedly explaining that her injuries had nothing to do with me. But the more she humbly endured, the more Lin JunYi thought I was ruthless. I was speechless, watching them ride away, leaving me alone in the wilderness to fend for myself. I had to walk back step by step, almost losing my innocence to a vagrant. But fortunately, I encountered patrolling soldiers who kindly sent me home. Only then did I realize that my 10 years of affection with Lin JunYi couldn't withstand a few words of provocation from others. It was truly laughable. The decree appointing me as a noble lady will be delivered in 3 days. I repeatedly urged my mother not to make a fuss, just to organize everything in the house as usual. Early the next morning, Lin JunYi came to find me eagerly, with Qin Manine following behind, looking concerned. Seeing my usual expression, Lin JunYi let out a big sigh of relief and reached out to pull me. Fortunately, you weren't chosen, Yao Yao. This time, you were indeed wronged. I thank you on behalf of Manine. I stepped back, deliberately avoiding his hand. He was taken aback, his expression somewhat discontented. Yao Yao, I've humbled myself so much, what more do you want? Having you enter the palace for selection was just a temporary measure. Now that you weren't chosen as you wished, who are you showing your displeasure to? Seeing this, Qin Manine immediately knelt in front of me, tears streaming down like rain. Sister, I know you're upset that I took your rightful place as the principal wife. I am willing to give up the position for you, as long as you don't stay angry with the young marquis. He truly loves you. Her words were interrupted by Lin JunYi. Silly Manine, with me here, you never need to wrong yourself. Lin JunYi tenderly embraced her, then frowned and looked at me. I said I would marry you, but Manine ultimately married me before you. The position of principal wife rightly belongs to her. You, a girl who wasn't chosen by the emperor, are already fortunate to be a noble concubine in my marquis's residence. What more do you want? I looked coldly at the man before me, unable to comprehend how the Lin JunYi who once had eyes only for me suddenly became so detestable. My marriage is decided by the elders, marrying a chicken or a dog has nothing to do with the young marquis. Seeing my resolute tone, Lin JunYi's face turned extremely unpleasant, and he spoke more recklessly. Fine, I want to see which family's son is willing to marry a worn-out shoe played by me. I never expected Lin JunYi to say such vulgar and outrageous words. In a fit of anger, I almost fainted. Lin JunYi seemed to realize his slip of the tongue, deliberately softening his tone. Good Yao Yao, it's my fault, don't be angry. If you care so much about status, I can promise you that once you give birth to a child, I'll ask my mother to elevate you to a secondary wife. Will that be enough? Even now, he still thinks I care about these empty titles. I helplessly waved my hand, signaling the maid to see him out. Lin JunYi snorted coldly, pulled Qin Manine, and turned to leave. My gaze was drawn to a hint of jade color at the woman's waist. Wait! I pointed at the jade pendant with the mandarin duck design on Qin Manine's waist. Staring straight at Lin JunYi. The item I gave you, how did it end up with her? This jade pendant was a birthday gift I gave to Lin JunYi. From selecting the jade material to carving and polishing, I did it all myself, without any help from others. When he saw the countless small wounds on my fingertips, he was heartbroken and immediately swore to keep it with him at all times. Yet he broke his promise, easily giving it to someone else. Lin JunYi looked guilty, his eyes evasive, about to explain. Qin Manning immediately removed the jade pendant and offered it to me with both hands. Sister, I'm sorry. I didn't know this was a gift you gave to the marquis. I just thought the Mandarin duck pattern on the pendant was very festive, so I boldly asked the marquis for it. Lin JunYi also spoke to defend her. It's just a jade pendant. I'll give it back to you. After saying that, he stuffed the pendant into my hand and turned to comfort Qin Manning. Manning, don't mind it. There are plenty of such things in the marquis's residence. If you like them, I'll have them all sent to your room in the future. Looking at their affectionate display, my heart felt like it was being pierced by needles. I raised my hand and threw the pendant into the lotus pond with a splash. You all, get out! I almost used all my strength to shout this sentence, and the hairpins on my head swayed chaotically. Lin JunYi had never seen me so out of control. He immediately left in a huff, muttering as he went. Where is there any semblance of a lady from a noble family? She's simply a shrew. All these years, she's truly been spoiled by me. I closed my eyes, letting the tears silently fall. So be it, let the memory of the boy who once swore to cherish me forever be dead. The person now is no longer the Lin JunYi I knew. After tossing and turning all night, I finally decided to visit Soaring Cloud Temple. Firstly, to pray for my parents, wishing them peace and happiness for the rest of their lives. Secondly, there are some matters I need to settle. Soaring Cloud Temple is the most popular temple in the capital, famous for its effective matchmaking prayers. I have brought Lin JunYi here more than once. I always took advantage of his affection and playfully warned him. You mustn't secretly come here with other girls, or if I find out, I'll ignore you forever. At that time, he would always indulge me, gently patting my head with a loving smile, and simply replied, okay. Now it seems that fate between him and me was just a little short. And the so-called effectiveness is nothing but a joke. The ancient tree, 1,000 years old, was covered with prayer plaques from lovesick men and women. I searched for a long time before finding the one with my name and Lin JunYi's. Just as I was about to reach for it, my gaze fell on a new prayer plaque beside it. The familiar names made my breath catch. Lin JunYi and Qin Manning, may they grow old together and stay united forever. On the back, there was a line of elegant small script, clearly written by a woman. May your heart be like mine. Followed by 2 bold characters from a man, same wish. The ink had not yet dried when I heard a woman's shy voice, prompting me to look up. Not far away, 2 intertwined figures were intimately close. Lin JunYi carefully lowered his head to place a kiss on Qin Manning's lips. That kiss landed heavily on my heart, suffocating me. Seemingly sensing my gaze, Lin JunYi turned to look in my direction. The moment our eyes met, he seemed like a helpless child, abandoning Qin Manning and running towards me. I quickly took down the prayer plaque with my name, casually tossed it into the fire pit. Watching the flames consume it inch by inch, as if my obsession was disappearing along with it. Lin JunYi, panting heavily, looked at me standing alone. Yao Yao, how could you come without even a maid? It's really worrying. His tone was full of concern, as if he wasn't the one who had heartlessly left me in the wilderness before. It's quieter alone. I walked indifferently to the main hall, sincerely asking the monks for incense. Lin JunYi followed me all the way, and when we passed a fortune-telling stall, he grabbed me, insisting that the master read our fortune. I resisted, furrowing my brows, while the master sighed deeply, shaking his head with regret. Alas, though there is fate, there is no destiny, in the end, it is all empty. Miss, let go early, your happiness lies ahead. I nodded with a smile, but Lin JunYi's face turned dark, and he slammed his fist on the table, gritting his teeth. Charlatan! She's about to marry me, how can it be fate without destiny? If you keep talking nonsense, I'll knock your teeth out. The master remained calm, but Lin JunYi grew more agitated. I watched his stubborn demeanor, somewhat dazed. As if he truly loved me and desperately wanted us to have a future together. But the image of him embracing and kissing Qin Manning flashed in my mind, bringing me back to reality. I spoke softly, he's just speaking the truth, the person you're meant to marry isn't me. Lin JunYi gripped my arms painfully, nearly frantically growling. Yao Yao, I forbid you to say such things. The surrounding worshippers were alarmed by Lin JunYi, casting their eyes upon us. In the distance, Qin Manin wiped her tears with a face full of grievance, staring fixedly at Lin JunYi. Lin JunYi glanced at her, his hands finally dropping powerlessly. Yao Yao, Manin sacrificed herself to save me, I can't hurt her anymore. If you dislike it, I can promise never to touch her again. I'll only give her the position of the principal wife, it won't affect you at all. Don't be stubborn, go back and wait for me to marry you. His eyes were full of pleading, but they could no longer sway me. I had no interest in their entanglements and turned to leave. Lin JunYi hurriedly called after me, Yao Yao, let me escort you. I didn't look back, and the man behind me had just taken a few steps when Qin Manin called him from afar. I rode back to the mansion at full speed, and shortly after I settled down, Lin JunYi came chasing after me. He must have escorted Qin Manin home and then came to see me. It was truly unnecessary. He had already made his choice between me and Qin Manin, so why bother me again? He originally wanted to explain a few things, but upon seeing the red silk hanging in my room, he smiled with relief. Yao Yao, you're still as contradictory as when you were young. It's good that you've come around, rest well and wait for me to marry you. I was speechless. Did he think the red silk in my room was hung for him, that I had finally given in after a few days of fuss? Seeing my silence, he left a package of osmanthus cakes and hurriedly took his leave. Tomorrow is his wedding day, he should indeed return home early to prepare. I glanced at it. It was from my favorite shop, but thinking that Qin Manin must have a package too. I found it tasteless and tore it into pieces to feed the fish. The palace's ceremonial carriage arrived as scheduled. But the decree of the emperor conferring the title of noble lady did not bring even a hint of joy to my parents' faces. Instead, they wore expressions of mourning. Supported by palace attendants, I bid farewell to my parents and stepped out of the mansion. The phoenix carriage swayed, its grandeur meeting head-on with Lin JunYi's wedding procession that stretched for 10 miles. Lin JunYi recognized the royal entourage and quickly made way, dismounting to kowtow. A servant behind him murmured softly, "Why does the lady in the carriage resemble Miss Mu Yao?" Lin JunYi paused and immediately reprimanded. "Do you have a death wish, daring to gossip about a palace consort? In a few days, I'll marry Yao Yao into my home. She must be wholeheartedly preparing for the wedding now." As I passed by him, I raised my hand and tossed the hairpin he had given me as a token of love in front of him. The crisp sound of its collision drowned out by the high-pitched music. Just like our feelings, it vanished without a trace. He abruptly lifted his gaze, seeing me in dazzling palace attire, and was instantly lost in disbelief, his mouth agape. "Yao Yao?" A palace attendant frowned and sternly corrected him. "Young Marquis, mind your words. This is His Majesty's newly appointed noble lady." The phoenix carriage carried me into the palace. And after much fuss, I was sent into the emperor's bedchamber, anxiously awaiting his coming. Before long, a commanding voice dismissed all the palace attendants. Remembering all the rumors about him, my body couldn't stop trembling. Until a pair of distinctly jointed large hands landed on my shoulders, prompting me to look up. That glance left me stunned. On the day of the consort selection, I was too far away to see his appearance clearly. And I hadn't realized that the current emperor had such an out-of-this-world, stunningly beautiful look. I simply couldn't associate the handsome young man before me with the tyrant from the rumors. "Have you seen enough?" Shinzainan interrupted me with a light laugh. And I immediately withdrew my gaze, lowering my brows, not daring to breathe. "Did the matron teach you how to serve?" I thought of those blush-inducing illustrations from before, my cheeks turning red in an instant. And I raised my hand to help him undress. But the royal attire was truly complex. And I was flustered, sweating profusely, unable to undo a single button. I didn't notice when the gaze above me became increasingly fervent. And the next second, my hand was firmly grasped by him, and I was spun around, pinned beneath him. I tightly closed my eyes, only hearing his slightly restrained, deep laughter. "It seems I've married myself a little ancestor, clumsy as you are. Let me serve you instead." Saying so, he gently removed my palace attire, even taking off my shoes and socks with his own hands. I watched him complete everything with trepidation, lying beside me without further action. After a long while, hearing his steady breathing, I gathered the courage to reach out and poke his strong chest, softly probing. "Your Majesty? Are you asleep?" My heart was pounding. This wasn't like what the matrons taught about serving in bed. I unconsciously sighed, and the man beside me seemed to awaken like a beast. Flipping over to prop himself above me, his gaze so deep it threatened to draw me in. The next moment, his solid chest pressed tightly against me, his muscular body uncontrollably throbbing, and his large hands held my waist, hot breath spraying by my ear. "Little thing, you brought this on yourself." I was dazed, letting him manipulate me, gradually losing consciousness, only faintly hearing his passionate, unbearable growl. It wasn't until much later that he finally withdrew, satisfied, and I couldn't help but fall asleep, only to be pulled up by him. "Be good, sleep later." Inside, the candlelight flickered, and I rubbed my eyes, seeing Shinzaenan holding 2 arm-thick dragon and phoenix candles. "What is this?" He affectionately rubbed the top of my head. "I heard that in the common folks' weddings, they light a candle until dawn. I want to burn a candle for you all night too." Looking at the blushing young man before me, I was deeply touched, nodding heavily. The mighty emperor treated me with the rights of a married couple. I didn't know why he did so, but I was willing to indulge in this brief favor. The next day, I struggled to get up, rubbing my waist, finding the other side of the bed already cold. A maid approached with a smile to serve me. "Congratulations, Your Highness, you've been promoted again after your first night. Now you are the Emperor's personally appointed noble consort. Your Highness, this is an unprecedented favor in the harem. The current Emperor has yet to establish an Empress. And the consorts who entered the palace years ago have either died or gone mad. Haven't I become the foremost in the harem?" I hadn't yet recovered from the news of the promotion, when the imperial yellow figure was suddenly before me. Shinzaenan reached out to pull me up from the bed, taking me to the rear hall. Seeing the familiar setup before me, my nose tingled, and I couldn't help but shed tears. "Afraid you'd miss home, I arranged it according to your maiden chambers style. Do you like it?" I nodded repeatedly in gratitude, being treated so earnestly by the most noble man in the world. Saying I wasn't moved would be a lie. He gently wiped away my tears with his sleeve. "Silly, as long as you like it, why cry?" I buried my head in his embrace, murmuring I like it. Shinzaenan's exclusive favor towards me quickly became known to everyone, and he even unprecedentedly allowed me to leave the palace to visit my family. When my entourage arrived at the Qin residence, the surrounding neighbors and commoners knelt down to watch the spectacle. Seeing me gracefully step down from the carriage and enter the house, they began to discuss freely. It is said that before entering the palace, her ladyship was childhood sweethearts with the young marquis of the Lin family. I originally thought they would be a pair, but who would have thought that the young marquis would suddenly marry her ladyship's fallen cousin? Isn't that right? I heard it was quite a scene at the time. The young marquis wanted to enjoy the blessings of having 2 wives, and even fantasized about her ladyship becoming his concubine. Such wishful thinking. Who would willingly give up being the emperor's noble consort to become his concubine? The neighbors' discussions were like sharp knives, cutting into Lin JunYi inch by inch. His face turned ashen as he followed the family members to greet me, lowering his voice and asking me with eyes full of unwillingness, "Yao Yao, are you willing to give up our years of affection just for this bit of glory and wealth?" I glanced at Qin Manin, who was kneeling beside him, her head adorned with jewels and her accessories jingling, and felt that Lin JunYi's words were extremely shameless. Since he has already formed a bond with someone else, what right does he have to accuse me of abandoning our relationship? I smiled and leaned close to his ear, asking word by word, "Why does the young marquis need to act innocent in front of me? All of this is thanks to you. Do you not know why I am favored?" A hint of confusion flashed in his eyes. His Majesty liked the lake blue dress I wore when we first met. He stared at me in shock, muttering, "Impossible." I interrupted with a stern face. "Young Marquis, I am now the Emperor's consort. Do not bring up past matters, lest unnecessary trouble arises." Lin JunYi wanted to say more, but Qin Manin pulled him back, her hand covering her belly as she painfully retched, making it clear to everyone that she was pregnant. I curled my lips and congratulated them. "Congratulations, young Marquis, such good news so soon. The Lin family will have an heir." He had previously promised me that he would never touch her after marriage. Yet she was pregnant so quickly, truly ironic. Qin Manning shyly leaned against him, and Lin JunYi hurriedly explained. Yao Yao, it's not like that, this was before. Enough, you should address me as her ladyship. His Majesty treats me very well, and I will soon catch up with you. Lin JunYi struggled with his expression. But, you have always loved me, don't deny it. Even as a consort, your heart still holds me, doesn't it? I scoffed coldly, young marquis, don't be so self-righteous. I stopped loving you long ago. How is that possible? We've been together for 10 years, how can you say you don't love me anymore? Ridiculous, you can transfer your affections to someone else but won't allow me to change my heart. I placed the teacup heavily down, causing everyone to kneel in fear. Lin JunYi sighed deeply, his eyes filled with helplessness. So, you still can't tolerate Manning, right? But I have my reasons. That day, I was poisoned with filter and Manning sacrificed herself to save me. I must take responsibility for her, otherwise. As a lone girl with no one to stand up for her, she would be ruined by rumors. I laughed out loud. So, I deserve to give up my place beside you and willingly become a concubine? Lin JunYi, you fell into someone else's trap without thinking, why should I bear the consequences? Do you trust Qin Manning so much? Never suspecting why you were poisoned with filter and why she happened to appear to rescue you? In his eyes, Qin Manning seemed innocent. But I knew very well that she had used such means to try to cling to influential people before. And after being exposed, she was sent away to the countryside. Now, just released, she repeats her old tricks. And only someone as foolish as Lin JunYi would be manipulated by her. Husband, Manning didn't. Her ladyship, I know you hate me for taking the marquis, but you can't accuse me like this. I might as well die. Qin Manning said as she tried to crash into a pillar. But Lin JunYi held her in his arms, comforting her softly. Manning, Yao Yao didn't mean it that way. Can't you trust me? With that, he carried the fainting Qin Manning away. I leaned heavily against the backrest, exhausted from the recent entanglement. Mother saw my weary expression and immediately dismissed everyone, tenderly helping me to rest in the room. Lin JunYi is truly a scoundrel. Muyao, forget about him. I heard His Majesty cherishes you greatly, and your father and I are relieved. But remember, being close to the Emperor is like being close to a tiger. Be careful with your words and actions, and protect yourself. I looked at my mother's worried eyes and agreed wholeheartedly. After returning to the palace, Shinzainan almost exclusively favored me. And it wasn't long before the imperial physician diagnosed me with pregnancy. He was extremely happy, saying this was his first child, and specially organized a grand spring banquet in the palace to lift my spirits. Lin JunYi and his wife were also among the invited guests. Shinzainan couldn't wait to announce my pregnancy. And the distinguished guests present all stood up to congratulate us. Only Lin JunYi stood frozen in place, his eyes fixed on my face, full of unwillingness and regret. Qin Manning quietly tugged at his sleeve beside him. But he pushed her away harshly, her face pale and stiff. It was then that I noticed, the last time I saw Qin Manning. She was dressed in luxurious clothes and adorned with extraordinary accessories. But this time, she was inappropriately wearing outdated garments, with hardly any decent jewelry on her. She looked as if she had undergone a major upheaval, appearing haggard. And even heavy makeup couldn't cover the dark circles under her eyes. Her waist had grown thicker with the months of pregnancy, making her look cumbersome, and her eyes showed an indescribable fatigue. Shinzainan noticed Lin JunYi's unabashed gaze and coldly remarked, Marquis Lin, staring so intently at my beloved consort, do you harbor covetous intentions? Lin JunYi suddenly snapped back to reality, withdrew his gaze, and knelt to plead for forgiveness, repeatedly saying I dare not. Shinzainan pondered for a moment, then waved his hand, no longer bothered by it. The old affair between Lin JunYi and me was no secret in the capital. And Shinzainan, with his ears and eyes all over the world, must have known about it. Yet he never mentioned it in front of me, whether he truly didn't care or. Before I could think further, the guests were already raising their glasses to me frequently. Shinzainan was in a good mood, drank a few more cups, and was helped away by the palace attendants to change clothes, leaving me alone at the banquet. At some point, Qin Manin knelt in front of me, crying and pleading. Sister, please help me persuade the marquis. I know I was wrong, I won't dare to scheme against him anymore. The marquis has made up his mind, once I give birth, he will divorce me. I know he is angry because I schemed against him, causing you and him to drift apart, but I truly love him. Lin JunYi actually considered divorcing his wife. Qin Manin, despite everything, was chosen by him. Why go through such pain? I ordered someone to help her up and sit down, calmly replying. Qin Manin, the entanglement between you and him is the marquis' family matter, I have no intention to interfere. You must take care of yourself in the future. Seeing me unmoved, Qin Manin threatened. Sister, I see how His Majesty favors you, but I bet he doesn't know about your past with the marquis. Tell me, if His Majesty finds out that his woman has another man in her heart, will you still be able to keep your position as the noble consort? I was shocked, truly underestimating her shamelessness. My past with Lin JunYi had become her leverage against me. Before I could get angry, Shen Zainan's voice, full of murderous intent, approached from behind. Well, I didn't know Marquis Lin's wife, who appears so weak, actually has such a scheming mind. Guards, Marquis Lin's wife has committed an offense against the noble consort. Take her away and slap her face 100 times as an example. Qin Manin's face turned ashen, and she hurriedly knelt, overwhelmed with fear. Lin JunYi, who had been drinking alone to drown his sorrows, finally realized Qin Manin's audacity and rushed forward to plead for her. But Shen Zainan gave him no chance to speak. Marquis Lin, such a fine young man, how did you marry such a treacherous wife? Let me remind you, keep a close watch on your people, lest she tarnishes the marquis' reputation. Qin Manin was held down by the palace attendants and slapped heavily, desperately begging Lin JunYi to save her, but he remained motionless. Her cheeks quickly swelled up, and she began to speak recklessly. Qin Muyao, don't be smug, how long do you think you can be favored? Once the emperor's affection fades, your end will be worse than mine. Do you really think the emperor truly likes you? It's just because you happen to wear his favorite blue dress. Don't forget how many women in the palace died miserably. The palace attendants, fearing she might offend me, immediately stuffed her mouth with straw. Shen Zainan clearly heard it, his brows furrowed, and the cold aura around him grew even stronger. Lin JunYi broke into a cold sweat, repeatedly pleading for forgiveness. I immediately reached out and tugged on Shen Zainan's royal robe, coyly urging him to help me rest. The ice in his eyes instantly melted away, and he playfully pointed at my nose, saying, "In the whole world, only you dare to order me around like this." I giggled, leaning against him, letting him carry me back to the palace. The guests, still shaken, scattered away. Back in the palace, I carefully recalled the words Qin Manin said at the banquet, and doubt began to rise in my heart. Shen Zainan saw my heavy heart and held my hand, patiently comforting me. Don't overthink it. I will always love you, never changing in this life. His sudden confession surprised me. I asked in astonishment. Back then, there were thousands of women participating in the selection. Why did Your Majesty choose me? Was it really because of that lake blue dress, as Mrs. Lin said? He smiled and tapped between my brows. You silly girl, it's been so long, and you still haven't realized? What? Seeing my confusion, he patiently began to explain from the beginning. It turned out that when he was still the crown prince, he had sneaked out of the palace to play, and ended up living among the common people as a little beggar for a while. One time, while begging on the street, he was bullied by a group of little beggars for taking their spot, almost beaten to death. It was by chance that I passed by, chased away the troublemaking beggars, and gave him a bag full of money. Fearing he couldn't protect the money, I had a servant from my family accompany him to the medical clinic. Later, he used the remaining silver pieces to find his way to the Prime Minister's residence, which allowed him to return to the palace smoothly. Back then, you wore a blue dress, with 2 little pigtails, looking like a doll in a painting, so adorable and unforgettable. After ascending the throne, I used the selection of consorts as an excuse to search for you everywhere. But those consorts were all pretending to deceive me for favor. Until that palace selection, when I saw you again, I recognized you at once, just like before. I suddenly understood, so, the consorts who reportedly died unjustly weren't because of your violent nature, but because they committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? No wonder, I never thought you were a tyrant who disregarded lives. However, I remember that little beggar was dirty and disheveled, but now he turns out to be so handsome. I muttered softly, puffing out my cheeks. He carefully took out an item wrapped in a handkerchief from his chest. And when I looked, it was indeed my childhood money bag. After all these years, the colors on it had faded, yet he still kept it carefully. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. Silly girl, are you relieved now? I treasure you dearly. But, I've confessed everything to you. When do you plan to open up to me and talk about that Lin Marquis? I sighed deeply and laid out the 10-year-long entanglement. From then on, there were no more barriers or secrets between us. As the moonlight gradually rose, I fell asleep in Shinzainan's arms, feeling a peace I had never known before. After 10 months of pregnancy, I endured 3 days and nights of labor to finally give birth to Shinzainan's first prince. During the delivery, he disregarded the palace attendants' attempts to stop him and stayed by my bedside. Witnessing my distress and cries, feeling deeply pained, he immediately declared the child as the crown prince and bestowed upon me the title of Empress, even going so far as to reduce taxes for 3 years. For a time, the entire nation celebrated, grateful for the crown prince's birth, bringing blessings to all. At the child's full-month banquet, Lin JunYi watched me from afar in the crowd, his expression forlorn. It wasn't until the guests began to leave that he gathered the courage to approach me and offer his congratulations. I smiled at him with relief. Your child should be 100 days old by now. Is everything well? His smile froze, and after a long sigh, I finally heard his dry voice. Thanks to your highness, everything is fine. I nodded gently, indicating for him to take his leave. After he left, Shinzainan came over, jealous. Humph, you've already given birth to my child, yet your mind is still full of other men. Just wait and see how I punish you. I pleaded for mercy, explaining to him that my interaction with Lin JunYi was merely polite conversation. When discussing Lin JunYi's hesitant demeanor earlier, Shinzainan raised an eyebrow. My foolish empress, you really know how to stab people in the heart. Listening to Shinzainan's endless chatter, I was surprised to realize how many things had happened in the months since I gave birth. Qin Manin had given birth to a boy 2 months before me. Yet the marquis's residence had delayed announcing the good news, which I found strange at the time. Initially, I thought it was because she had fallen out of favor. But it turned out she had given birth to a child with blue eyes and white hair. Clearly not Lin JunYi's flesh and blood. Under intense questioning from the marquis's residence, Qin Manin revealed the truth. She had secretly conceived with a foreign man, who then heartlessly abandoned them. Helpless, she turned her attention to Lin JunYi, deliberately drugging his wine and pretending to accidentally encounter him, sacrificing herself to help him out. All of this was just to find a convenient father for the child in her womb, but she hadn't expected the child would inherit his biological father's blue eyes and white hair, leading to the exposure of her deceit and total defeat. It's laughable that Lin JunYi would abandon our years of friendship for such a woman. The information Lin JunYi initially gathered about Shinzainan's likes and dislikes was also secretly altered by Qin Manin. The original message was to advise the selected women to avoid blue dresses. But Qin Manin made Lin JunYi misunderstand that the emperor most hated blue. I couldn't help but laugh and cry. When I was selected, I indeed resented Lin JunYi, thinking he did it on purpose, but it turns out he was also deceived. So today, among the noble women, I didn't see Qin Manin's figure. What has become of her now? Lin JunYi, being soft-hearted, only confined her to a corner of the residence, leaving her to fend for herself. But Qin Manin was unwilling to give up and tried to regain favor by climbing into his bed while he was drunk, only to be discovered by Lin JunYi, who then sold her to a brothel. Her fate made me sigh. After all, she is a blood relative, and no one wants to see her end miserably. Oh, by the way, did you notice anything different about Lin JunYi today? I looked at him puzzled, while Shinzainan smirked mischievously and lowered his voice mysteriously. I heard Qin Manin gave him strong filter, forcing him to comply. But he refused this time, stubbornly harming his own body. My heart skipped a beat, but then I found my reaction amusing. He and I had long severed ties, and besides, it was all his own doing, not worthy of sympathy. All right, stop thinking about him. Our prince seems to be crying. My Empress, quickly hold him. Before I could react, he had already placed the swaddled child in my arms. I clumsily soothed him, watching him fall sweetly asleep, my heart filled with love. But the next moment, Shinzainan handed the child to the wet nurse, pressing me towards the bed. Feeling his intense, burning gaze on my chest, I blushed and resisted. Your Majesty, it's still daylight. So what? Which palace rule or ancestral instruction forbids it? I'll abolish it right now. My weak resistance was silenced by his kiss. Oh well, what's the harm in being a little reckless this time? It's just human nature, after all. From now on, I will stay with him, growing old together.